experience will no longer be a requirement for entry-level jobs in the public sector. The Public Service and Administration Department says it will issue a revised directive in November with a clear criteria to implement this plan. The department says this will be done as part of addressing the country's high unemployment rate. Labour law expert Osborne Molatudi joins us now to unpack the meaning or the significance of such a move in the public sector. Osborne, good afternoon. Welcome to Today. Thank you very much for joining us here on eNCA on this Friday afternoon. This is a good move, I guess, many people would say, and others will say, why did it take so long for the public service to move in this direction, knowing that the unemployment rate in this country has been high for the longest time?
Good afternoon, Braden, and to your viewers. Indeed, it's long overdue. As much as it might sound controversial, we think that this is a good move on the part of government to address, amongst others, the high unemployment rate. Because let's face it, requiring work experience often has a knock effect on job seekers and in general on the entire economy, where job seekers and graduates are unable to find employment precisely because of the requirement for work experience. So what the government intends to put in place is something that needs to be positively applauded going forward.
Yeah, I mean, one wonders why would the private sector not follow suit?
Well, the private sector will argue that in respect of their work environment, they have such provision for interns, learnerships with a view to equipping someone with workplace experience and in the end to offer that person permanent placement or even on a fixed term basis. But that also applies to government in relation to the operation of our sector education training authorities, of commonly known as SETAs. But this directive, Braden, it's within the ambit of the Public Service Act, which was promulgated to provide for the organization and administration of the public service of the Republic, the regulations of the conditions of employment, terms of office, discipline, retirement, and discharge of members of the public service, and the matters connected therewith. Now, in order for the government to increase that basket, it needs to do away with certain requirements. And one of the key aspects they're looking at is to abolish work experience, particularly for entry-level posts, and by so doing to promote employment and to provide fair employment opportunities for job seekers.
Yeah, we always hear that the government has got good policies. This country has got good policies, got good laws. We fail when we implement. What would you be, as a labor expert, be looking at when this criteria, this directive is published in November with a clear criteria about how to implement it to ensure that it is successful?
I think first of most is the compilation of an appropriate policy, followed by, its discussions with relevant stakeholders in the workplace, such as trade unions and other forums that are applicable with that particular employer. But more importantly, to train the implementers, on this policy, because the last thing we need is key requirements being compromised, where every Tom, Dick, and Harry suddenly gets an entry-level job without the necessary minimum requirements. For instance, if a particular entry-level job requires one to have a matric and or an NQF level 4, let it be so, and let the implementers know that without compromising the quality of the candidates that that specific department will be looking for.
Okay, so now with this move, one should expect more younger people maybe, because entry-level jobs won't require any experience, because, I mean, that's where the biggest challenge is about unemployment in our country.
Indeed. I mean, the controversial question is, how do you acquire work experience if you don't get given an opportunity, to work first? So what the government intends to do aligns with another piece of legislation called Employment Services Act, which in essence is to promote employment opportunities for everyone in this country. And it must be mentioned that the abolishment is not just that everyone will simply get the job, but it will still have those minimum requirements. But at the same time, you can't have an impediment or a bar, such as a work experience, to make it impossible for job seekers to find employment at your workplace.
Yeah, I think it's a good move. But the government shouldn't take too long to implement it, Osborne. I mean, if the regulation or the directive that's revised is going to come out in November with a clear criteria, and you've mentioned consultations that are necessary with all kinds of stakeholders like trade unions especially, they should be welcoming this and help government to expedite it.
Indeed. I think relevant stakeholders must embrace this. They must get involved and not sit on the, on the side, be bystanders, and then later on complain. But to answer your question, I would imagine everything government requires discussion, requires meetings, requires debate, requires adoption at various levels. And one may safely say maybe that's perhaps the reason why it took so long. And more so because you also require public participation before you even publish a particular directive. I mean, as we speak, the minister was simply expressing an intention to abolish work experience, but the directive has not yet been issued. We are informed that it's likely to be issued by end of November. And all of us as practitioners, job seekers, employees, employers, workers, trade unions, we are looking forward to it and to see whether indeed it will align with, the purpose and objective of the Public Service Act, and in addition, the Employment Services Act, as they are applicable as we speak.
My last question to you, Osborne, is highly speculative. I mean, currently entry-level jobs will be defined as certain levels in the public sector. Would this mean, could this mean a change in what is regarded as an entry-level job?
In some way, yes, because when one reads the intention of government is that these are, not necessarily supervisory positions. These are positions to enable, job seekers to enter the job, the workplace to acquire a particular work experience, at least up until level 6, grade. So yes, in some instances, it may require that there has to be some changes, which will then be dealt with or elaborated in the anticipated directive to be issued before or by the end of November 2023.
Okay, thank you very much for your time and explanation this afternoon. That's labor law expert Osborne Molatudi.